What's up, guys? My name is Derek. Welcome to my channel, Euro Superbike Life. In today's episode, we're going to be doing a couple of things. One, we're going to do a radiator flush and fill on my MV Agusta F3 800. And because we got to take off all the fairings in the tank and pretty much disassemble the goddamn bike, we're also going to do a headlight conversion to an HID kit that I got from DDM Tuning. So stay tuned. Welcome back, guys. Let me apologize in advance as usual. Again, obviously we're in my garage and the garage doors are open because it's a beautiful day. In fact, I think the spring is officially over here in the Valley of the Sun. It was about 90 degrees yesterday and hot as hell. So if I'm wiping my forehead and brow, that's why. But again, you may hear cars driving by, dogs, lawn equipment, who knows what. So I'm going to apologize in advance because if I had to stop every time those things happen, I'll never get this done. But anyway, let's jump right into what's going on. So as you can see, I have my distilled water and water wetter. Again, I love using water wetter. I use it in all my vehicles. It's proven to work very well for me, particularly here in the Valley of the Sun. And like I said, it's used at, or allowed at all of the racetracks. So this bike will eventually be on the track at some point. And it's allowed there, so as opposed to engine ice and some of the other things that they don't allow. So get yourself some, whatever it is you're going to flush your bike with, whether it be antifreeze, 50/50 engine ice, distilled water and water wetter, or something else. Make sure that you have plenty of it for this job. Also over here, we have my HID kit from DDM Tuning. I like using DDM Tuning kits. I also use kits from one other company, but we're not talking about them now, so we'll talk about them later. But I really like the DDM Tuning kits. They come complete with everything you need except for instructions for some reason, but their kits are somewhat universal, so I guess putting instructions in there wouldn't make any sense. But their kits come complete with bulb, ballast, and wiring harness. This is an H4 bulb. It's a high-low bulb, so that's what our MV Agusta F3 800 accepts. We have connectors on here. This is the ballast. So I went with a 55 watt ballast as opposed to a 35 watt. Reason being is the light tends to be brighter with the 55 watt as opposed to the 35 watt, but at the same time it draws a little bit more on your bike battery as well. So again, particularly on the F3 800, make sure you have a really good, strong battery if you're going to be doing this conversion. And then it also comes with the wiring harness. Now, DDM Tuning does something a little bit different for their bikes. This is the same harness that you would use, or they would use, on automotive vehicles or vehicles with two headlights. So it has an additional ridiculously long wire here that we really don't need. We really just need this side that connects to our ballast as opposed to this side. So think if you're in a car, you know, this goes close to one of your headlights, and here we go, let me get this out of the way. This goes close to one of your, let's say your driver's side headlights, and it plugs right in and you mount it there. And then the other one, your other ballast, would have to go all the way over to your other side, your passenger side headlight. So that's why this is here. We don't need this really long one, so I'm probably going to cut it off, but you don't have to. You can technically, you know, wrap it up kind of thing, you know, zip tie it and stuff it away somewhere. However, motorcycles are fairly compact, and finding room for all of this stuff, all these wires, the ballast, everything is a challenge. So having to find extra room for all of this extra cord, it's really not necessary. So I'm probably going to clip it off, then, you know, fold it over, zip tie it, and then, you know, put some tape around it, some electrical tape. But all the connections are very straightforward. We bring the ballast over here. So we're going to be using the short wire again. So we have a connector for our ballast, and we have the input for our ballast. It's pretty simple. They can only go in one way. It can't go the other way, and this can't connect to anything else. Then we have a connector for our headlights, and then a ground wire that we will connect somewhere to the ground. The other wire that we're going to be concerned with on the harness, as you can see, again, H4 high-low, is this wire that has fusible link. This runs all the way to the positive battery terminal on our battery. So we have to make sure that we are within distance, as my ballast almost falls, that wherever we mount this, it has to be close enough to plug into the headlights, but also reach the battery, which is under the tank in their area somewhere. So it becomes a challenge figuring out where you're going to mount all this stuff, but it's very straightforward with all the connections. You don't have to worry about it. We have headlight connectors on here. So if we grab our H4 bulb, we have male and female connectors here, male and female connectors here. You cannot mix them up. This one goes into here. Then we have the other male and female. They go together. And then we have our one wire left, again, which connects to this wire on our harness. So again, it's all very straightforward. There aren't any instructions, again, because every bike is different. So every install will be a little bit different. Every install will be custom. The trickiest part about installing an HID kit on your motorcycle, particularly this bike, is one, finding some place to mount the ballast and everything. So before you start tearing into everything, have a good idea where you're going to mount things. And number two is connecting the wires to actually the headlights. So you'll see in a minute, car driving by, when we remove the housing cover to the stock bulb, it's all sealed and enclosed. And when we install our new HID H4 bulb, these wires have to come through that housing. So we either have to leave the housing cover off, or we got to drill a hole or notch the housing cover so we can put the cover back on. Now, I would say that I've seen people do the install and leave the covers off on other bikes. I don't recommend that. Water and electrical components do not mix. So I would recommend that we figure out a way, or I'm going to figure out a way. We'll probably drill a hole through the cover, slide these wires through the cover, and then I'll use like an O-ring grommet that will seal up around here so that we'll have some type, it won't be super watertight or completely enclosed like the stock setup is, but it'll be more watertight, so I'll be able to watch the bike and things of that nature, and I won't have to worry about getting water in here on my H4 bulb. So enough talk. We're going to start by removing all of the fairings and everything because, again, we got to get the tank off to get to the overflow reservoir, and literally all of the things have to come off. It's going to look a lot like my BMW over here once we get all the fairings off. But let's get to it, shall we? Okay guys, so all the fairings are all off the bike. Now we are ready to remove the tank. I've already removed the front screws on the tank holder as well as the rear screw. Now we just need to disconnect the fuel lines and the power lines. So first we're going to start with this one here. This main fitting right here, so we're going to disconnect this. Hose runs up to the underside of the tank. So we're going to disconnect this here by pinching this. Then we can lift the tank up. We'll probably have to prop it a little bit. And then we can disconnect all the electrical connectors. Now these are, again, if you have someone with small fingers, this would be ideal because it's hard to get around the trellis frame here to pinch and pull. Here we go. Oh, yes, I lost some fuel. But finally got it out. Good Lord. Typical MV fashion, they don't make anything easy. All right. So now I might enlist the help of a family member. First, let me lower this, lower the table down. Guys, with the assistance of my wife, I was able to get all of the fuel and electrical connections disconnected from the tank. So now all we need to do is lift it up and set it aside. Guys, with the tank all removed, we have access to the battery. and we have access to the overflow tank. You can see our cap here on top, and over here on the right side, you can't see this, but there's an auxiliary filler plug over here on the side that we use that, once we get everything back on the bike or whatever, and you find that your coolant is a little bit low, you don't have to take everything else off. You can remove the plug over here on the right side and with a syringe basically top it up. But we're going to remove this cap. Actually, take that back. We're going to bring you around to the right side of the bike. I'm going to show you where the drain plug is, and then we're going to remove that plug, then remove this cap and drain our fluid. All right, guys, so we are over here on the right side of the bike, and I want to bring you in closer on this bolt here. Here we go. This one right here, this is your drain, not this one on top. They look very similar, and they're the same 8mm Allen key as well. So you want this one here, again, not this one up here. So let me grab my bucket and my 8mm 3/8 drive Allen socket, and we'll loosen this up. Okay. Got some lines in the way here. All right. That's removed. And now we'll remove the cap on our overflow tank. It is blue, so it's probably engine ice. I actually forgot to remove the radiator cap as well. Here we go. We'll just let that drain for a second. It's been a few minutes, and we're down to just a few drips here. So I'm gonna move the bucket, and I'm gonna put the plug back in. Now, unlike my BMW, we can't, well, technically we can, but it will be a real pain in the ass. Normally what I would do is I would fill this with distilled water and then start the bike and let it run for a little bit and then drain it all out again. In order to do that, it means we got to put the tank back on, and that's just way too much effort. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, without starting it, I'm going to fill it with distilled water and then remove the plug again and just let it flush through. I'll probably do that a couple of times. So let me grab my funnel. We'll lower the bike down here just a little bit. Whoops, I forgot to. About there, that's good. And I have just enough room. I mean, I actually can't get it. There we go. And now I'll just grab my distilled water, and I'll just fill the system. All right. And I'll grab my bucket again. We still had some blue there again. And like I said, I'll repeat this process a couple more times. So I've flushed this through about 4 times. The last flush was pretty clear, so now I'm going to put the plug back in. And then I'm going to snug it up. Now the manual says 8 to 10 Newton meters. You guys know me, I'm not a torque Nazi. So I'm just going to make it snug, call it good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the table down. We're going to back the bike off, put it on its side stand, and then we're going to do the final fill. Make sure nothing is in my way to prevent me from lowering it. Okay. What's really nice about this stand and the front wheel chock is I don't actually need anything to hold it on the back, although, you know, I don't know who would be overly, I don't know, okay with doing that, but for the very moment, you know, you could just leave it sitting a butt like this and not have to worry about it rolling or, you know, falling off or whatever like that, but it's pretty cool. Okay. Should just take that off, but I'm being lazy. So guys, the bike, as you can see, is over on its side stand now. I'm going to grab my distilled water wetter and begin filling the system. And then basically, because there's no air bleed screw on this bike, what we're going to do is we're going to fill the system up and wait a while. And if it drops, we'll fill some more. And we'll continue to do that until the water stops dropping in the radiator. Then we'll top up the overflow tank, and then we'll put everything back on and we'll start it, let it run till the fans kick on, turn it off, let it sit some more, and then check the final level in the overflow tank. That is it. It's a lot of waiting, unfortunately. So, okay, let's go mix up some more water wetter and distilled water mix. Okay guys, so while we wait for the coolant level to drop or to see if it drops, I'm going to go ahead and start planning my my attack of where I want to place the ballast and all the wires for the HID kit. So in looking at it, I think there's some space right above the air intake tube. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this cover. Okay. So yeah. So it does look like I have some room over here, but there's some wires on top. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the other side and see if I have more room on the top of that air intake. Yeah, this side is a lot better. So let me grab my ballast. I'll bring you guys around to this side. All right, so here's my ballast. And I think I could slide it right in on top here. There's only one thin wire, and then I can pass the rest under the frame. So like that. And then, yeah, wrong way. Sit just like that. Yeah, I think this will work. So that way now my ballast will be tucked away underneath. There's an opening over here for the wires, so I'll run the wires through there, and that way it'll look like a nice clean install. No one will be able to see the ballast. They'll just have the wires coming through there, and then we should be good. So I think I have my location. I don't know if you guys can see that, but the water level hasn't dropped at all here. So I'm going to let it sit for another 20-30 minutes, and if it's still at that level, then we can top all this stuff up. We'll put the tank back on, and then we'll fill up the overflow tank. All right? See you guys in a few minutes. All right, guys, it's been about an hour. The water level or the coolant level hasn't moved an inch, so I'm pretty happy with it right now. So I'm going to go ahead and take my radiator cap and reinstall it. There we go. And then I'm going to get my funnel and I'm going to fill up the overflow tank. So over here on the left side of the coolant overflow tank, there's a minimum line right here. So I'm going to fill it. I don't actually see a maximum line, which is odd. But I'm going to fill it somewhere about halfway. Okay, so we're just above minimum right now. I'm going to go right about there. So we're about here. There's a little indent there. I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to grab the cap and put the cap back on the overflow tank, and then I'm going to put it back on the stand so that we can get going on our HID kit.